I decided to do a cartoon of my brother. So this will look kind of similar to my brother, and most of the people watching this video, let's face it, most of the people watching this video know my brother personally because most of these videos get like 8 views. So yeah, don't worry about it. If you don't know, a weird thing happened a few weeks back. My brother walked into my house and he's a big fan of garlic, as most of us sane people are, and I had made some food. I had made some garlic chicken, and I handed it to him, and he hissed and screamed and ran out of the room into the basement, shutting out all of the light. None of that is really out of the ordinary for my brother, honestly, but the fact that he wouldn't eat the garlic, that really tipped me off that something was wrong. The next few days, I started noticing eerie music playing as if from an old organ. Now, we don't have an old organ, so that was strange, but I guess it could have been coming from a speaker. I don't know. I also started noticing a higher presence of bats swarming around of our house, which is great because they cut down on the mosquito population. I love bats. I love having bats around. I also have been noticing that it's been very foggy at night, and I haven't really checked when the full moon was, but it seems like the moon has been at least close to full fairly often. That seems like an unnatural phenomenon. Do 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 do. But I also started seeing large prints, animal tracks in the mud and outside, and started to hear howling in the distance, which is just great because you know what, the wolf population is in decline, and I'm hoping that they kind of come back from that. If you haven't caught on yet, the signs are unmistakable. It's clearly a vampire. This is a vampire that is modeled after my brother, and if you don't know my brother, it doesn't matter because the vampire character is right here. You're looking at it. I have been watching a lot of other uh, artists do these types of speed draw videos and trying to just study how other people do stuff. I am always picking up new tricks and always learning new things, and something that really keeps sticking with me is the fact that every time I see other artists draw, now granted, I don't have a great, super expensive setup. I have just a simple tablet and not a not a lot to work with in terms of technology, but I think I make do pretty well. But what I keep noticing is all these different art styles that whenever I see another artist draw digitally, they make it look so natural. They make it look so easy, I would say. And then I'll hear these people talk and say, I couldn't get this to look the way I wanted to. And everybody basically is really supportive of each other in some of these videos. These videos of trying new art styles. That's kind of what I do on this. Is I am always trying to take myself out of my comfort zone, and sometimes I feel like I put myself in my comfort zone too much. So this was an attempt to do a cartoonish style, and the biggest part for me is not being so picky, not being so much of a perfectionist about the line work. So I deliberately wanted to make this look, I don't want to use the word messy or sloppy, but like less refined. And I ultimately really like how that comes out. It reminds me of like indie comics, kind of like a Tank Girl look, or I mean, the biggest inspiration to the face is the mask, is a design choice that has stuck with me for years whenever I do these chaotic, grinning characters. I really like the art style of the Mask comic. So if you haven't checked that out, go check that out. You're definitely familiar with the Jim Carrey movie. But I wanted to do cartoony. I hesitate to say chibi style because this isn't really anime, but it's kind of that idea of like the big head, big hands, big feet small everything else, right? So it's very much cartoony. I do something else that you see me playing with right here in the video, which is this outline with all the different colors. I learned the expression, I've definitely seen this before, but I learned the expression chromatic aberration, and I really wanted to do something with that, playing with that in this style. So in addition to trying to keep my line work loose and not overthink everything, which I absolutely still did overthink everything. I spent way too much time trying to make it look like I didn't overthink it. And that's exactly the problem right there, right? So I wanted to go back to doing just two-tone shading a lot of part. I still did a bit of blurring and blending with the coloration, but you'll see I redo the pants. I redo the shading on the pants over and over again. That was a night that I was up until 3 a.m, I think, and it just wasn't looking the way I wanted it to, and I kept fighting the urge to go back into doing the full realistic blending that I've kind of been practicing quite a lot. I wanted this to be cartoony. I wanted this to be flatter. And whenever I do something flat, to me, it always looks unfinished, which is not true of any other artist. I'll watch other artists do just flat coloring and think it looks amazing and think to myself, how come I can't do that? How come I can't make a simple drawing that looks really good? And I will hear these artists say the same thing about other people's art, which in one sense I love that about other artists, but in the other, we're all neurotic and we're all trying to make things look really cool. And our own art, we are our own biggest critic, right? That's a known expression. So in my mind, every other artist is better than me, and in every artist's mind, someone is always better than them. But I really like just being able to adopt other people's art styles. Now, I will still say this is my style, but the techniques are what I want to try to learn. And in addition to the shading of the pants, I redid the eyes a million times because there's a lot of experimentation going on in this. Like I mentioned, the chromatic aberration, that was inspired by the idea that, vampires have the ability to control your mind or make you hallucinate or something. So I really wanted to kind of play with that idea that there's this mesmerism in the eyes. What fun things that I could do? What fun things could I do to give that impression? And the first thing I thought was like the swirling vortex kind of hypnotism idea, and I really didn't want to do that. But really, it's not based on anything other than I started throwing in all these effects that I thought looked cool, and some of them I wanted to get rid of, and then I started thinking of how do the eyes become the focal point of the face? Are the colors mixing well with the other things? Do they stand out too much? Are they too busy? You could argue that the eyes here are a little too busy. I cut back on a lot of what I was trying because I didn't want them to be too busy, but there are elements here that I really like. I started throwing in some soft light layers on the face to make it look more flesh colored, but not, because I had it like this blue-white because it's a corpse, it's a vampire. But I started thinking that was making it too boring. And so I wanted to tie in all the different colors with greens and reds to make it look like that chromatic aberration is kind of like flowing through. So here's the final result. I think it looks cool. I hope it doesn't give you a headache looking at it, but I do hope that it looks weird. So thanks for watching this one. I had a lot of fun with it. Thanks.